Why do so many after 60 choose to live alone? No partner, no constant companion, and no apparent urgency to fill the quiet. Society whispers that this is loneliness, a silent tragedy of aging, a life half-lived. But what if this solitude isn't a void but a sacred space? What if, in the autumn of life, these men and women aren't lost but found embracing a truth that redefines everything we've been taught about connection, purpose, and the self? Loneliness after 60 isn't always a curse. It can be a crucible, a deliberate choice to forge meaning in the stillness. This isn't the story of absence. It's the story of presence, a presence so profound it shatters the myths of what it means to grow old. Carl Jung, the sage of the psyche, taught us that the second half of life is a call to individuation, a journey inward to integrate the shadow, to reconcile opposites, and to become whole. Those who live alone after 60 often embody this truth, not in despair, but in defiance of a world that equates solitude with failure. Picture a person after 60, their home quiet, their days their own. Society pities them, assuming they're abandoned, left behind by love or life. But what if they've chosen this? Not out of bitterness or defeat, but from a hard-won clarity that only decades of living can bestow. They've loved, lost, built, and broken. They've carried burdens, chased dreams, and weathered storms. And now, in this season, they turn inward, not to hide, but to uncover. Jung spoke of the shadow, those parts of ourselves we bury, fearing their weight. After 60, these solitary souls often face that shadow head-on, meeting the regrets, fears, and unspoken desires tucked away in youth. They don't flee loneliness. They embrace it as a teacher, a mirror reflecting truths long ignored. Why do we call this emptiness when it might be fullness? Why do we assume they're incomplete when they may be more whole than ever? This solitude isn't rejection of connection, it's discernment born of experience. They've tasted fleeting loves, endured betrayals, and perhaps given too much to those who offered too little. The world expects them to cling to companionship, to fill their days with noise to drown out the ticking clock. But they've learned that not all company nourishes, not all noise is music. Jung's concept of individuation whispers here, the task of becoming one's true self, integrating light and dark, strength and fragility. These men and women aren't running from relationships. They're refusing to settle for those that diminish. They seek connections that honor their depth, not ones that demand they shrink to fit outdated roles. Dutiful spouse, selfless parent, tireless provider. Have you ever wondered if loneliness is less about absence and more about presence? The presence of a self, hard-earned, that no longer bends to expectation. The world misreads their quiet. It labels them lonely, isolated, forgotten. But Jung reminds us we project our fears onto others. Society sees solitude after 60 as loss, because it fears its own silence, its own unexamined depths. These individuals, however, have plunged into that abyss. They face the ghosts of youth ambitions unfulfilled, loves that faded, choices that shaped them. Their solitude is no accident. It's a sanctuary built from the rubble of lessons learned. They've discovered that true connection begins within, that the love they seek must first be offered to themselves. Isn't it possible that their aloneness is not a wound, but a triumph? A refusal to live half-heartedly, a commitment to authenticity over comfort. They've known chaos decades of striving, pleasing, proving. They've loved until they lost themselves, given until they were empty. But somewhere along the way, disappointment became a teacher. Heartbreak taught resilience. Solitude revealed strength. What looks like loneliness is often maturity, a clarity that comes only with time. They don't crave just any company. They seek reciprocity, souls who meet them in their fullness. Jung's wisdom echoes, true wholeness integrates opposites, joy and sorrow, connection and solitude. These individuals don't reject love. They demand it be real, unshackled from obligation or pretense. They're not unreachable, they're selective, having learned that shallow bonds drain more than they sustain. Why do we fear their stillness when it might be their greatest strength? This choice of solitude after 60 challenges the world's script. Society insists happiness lies in togetherness, that to age alone is to fail. Jung warned that convention suffocates authenticity, and these individuals defy it. They hear the murmurs, "You should find someone. Don't you get lonely? Time's running out." They smile, perhaps wistful, perhaps amused, knowing what others call loneliness is their liberation. They're not seeking a savior or a distraction. They seek alignment with their soul's truth. And that truth, honed over decades, is rare. It's not about perfection, but about presence, someone who matches their depth, who's faced their own shadows. Such connections aren't found in every passing glance, and they're at peace with that. Their solitude provokes because it reveals. It's a mirror to a world addicted to noise, to filling every moment with distraction. They live as proof that joy can bloom in quiet, that meaning doesn't require a partner. This unsettles those who fear solitude see lack. Those who chase external validation feel judged. But they're not here to confront, they're here to be. Their authenticity, Jung would say, is a beacon, illuminating the chains others wear unknowingly. They move at their own pace, seeking depth in a shallow world. When they say no to fleeting connections, it's not rejection, it's clarity. When they choose silence over empty chatter, it's not withdrawal, it's reverence for their own soul. What truly stirs unease isn't their aloneness, it's the peace they've carved within it. Jung taught that looking outward breeds dreams, but looking inward awakens. After 60, these individuals have awakened through a grueling descent, stripping away masks, facing regrets, rebuilding from fragments. They no longer measure worth by others' gaze, they see themselves clearly. Have you ever felt the weight of society's expectation to never be alone? They've carried that too, once believing solitude was a flaw in a world worshipping pairs, but they learned, better alone than invisible in a bond that suffocates. That realization became a vow never to accept less than their soul deserves. Their path isn't without shadows. Doubts creep in, nostalgia stings, silence can weigh heavy, but each choice to remain true strengthens them. They've learned love should liberate, not cage. Jung's individuation shines here. Integrating shadow and light, they emerge whole, refusing to be half of anything. They seek not someone to complete them, but to share their completeness, a demand for accountability rare in a world of fleeting attachments. Their steps echo wisdom, their boundaries affirm love's worth, unbegged. They're not who they were, those who chased approval or clung to roles. Jung's tree, rooted in hell to reach heaven, describes their journey. They've descended into their depths regrets, societal pressures, inherited fears, and emerged unbroken. They've shattered cycles of duty, mistaken for love, learned they needn't save or be saved. Society called them wrong, but they stood firm, now unshakable. Having known their abyss, they fear no silence. They sustain themselves, not unapproachable but protective, opening only to truth. This transformation is archetypal, tapping ancient wisdom. Aging isn't diminishment but expansion. They awaken a sovereign spirit, solitary yet aligned with destiny. Labels lonely, stubborn fall away, they transcend. They radiate presence, choose deliberately, upending myths of neediness. Their confidence is quiet, their fate shaped by inner truth. They don't beg space, they invite it. declining what lacks depth with dignity. They still long for connection, touch, shared laughter, but not at the cost of self. They seek soul alliances, where growth is mutual, unedited. If that seems much, so be it. Better wait than settle. This is self-love, pure. They embody a new archetype, embracing depth, demanding respect, proving love requires no self-betrayal. Their presence shifts the air, not mysticism, but the weight of battles won in peace. Integrating opposites, they welcome love that honors all light and shadow, strength and softness. Too whole for halves, too free for cages, they persist, even in misunderstanding, choosing truth over fleeting comfort. Society fears them unneedy, rewriting aging's narrative, breaking pacts that tie worth to partnership. They spark quiet revolutions, inspiring others to question. They endure, self-sufficient, knowing future love will celebrate, not save. When they choose solitude, the world sees lack, but they feel alignment. Jung's individuation, a soul's vow. Their truth shines in quiet refusals, serene smiles in stillness. Solitude isn't punishment, it's loyalty to self, sufficient